HWANG DONGSOO has the potential to be one of the best DPS hunters in solo leveling Arise, as this is because of one of the skills within his kit. So it's going to be very important to build him correctly, which is why today I'll be going over how you can best build HWANG DONGSOO. So let's start off with all of his best artifact sets, and unfortunately because HWANG DONGSOO is a defense scaler, there isn't really anything that can help him specifically with that stat. However, there's still some really good gear sets for him, as just like literally every DPS character in this game, apart from Choi Jong-in, the toughness gear set is going to be one of his best gear sets, as you can increase your crit rate by 8% on the 2 set effect, and then on the 4 set effect you can increase your critical hit damage by 32% as well. And then the only other 2 gear sets that he can somewhat benefit from are going to be the 1-hit kill gear set, just because you can increase your ultimate skill damage and also decrease its cooldown, and then also the solid foundation gear set, as you can increase your core attack damage and stuff like that. And as because DONGSOO is a skill spammer, it means you can get your core attacks pretty quickly, but overall the toughness gear set is going to be by far your best bet. And then for accessories, there's only really 3 gear sets that you can choose from, with probably the best one being Executioner, as there's the condition to get the 20% damage increase on the 4 set effect from this isn't really that crazy, because you've only got to have your enemy's HP at 70% or less. And then you can also go for Berserker as well, as you can get a 30% damage increase when your HP is at 70% or less, so if you want to do that you can. Or you can go for Concentration of Firepower, which I wouldn't really recommend as much. And then starting off with all of the stats that you want for his gear pieces, and starting off with his regular artifact sets, and starting off with the helmet, you're going to want either additional defense or defense percent, and then with the body armor as well as the gloves, they will always be defense and attack. And then finally the boots, you can go with one of 2 things, which is either going to be defense percent or critical hit damage. So it doesn't really matter too much which one of them you choose, because realistically at the end of the day you're still going to be doing a ton of damage, but defense percent is probably a little bit safer to go with, as when building certain teams with him you're going to want to bring certain characters that can increase his defense stat. And then for accessories, additional HP on the necklace, wind damage percent on the bracelet, additional defense or defense percent on the ring, and then finally of course additional mana points on the earrings. And then moving on to his substats, and starting off with his artifact substats, and you're going to want a lot of critical hit rate on him, because if you're going to use the toughness gear set then you're going to want to crit with him a bunch. And then you'll want things like just regular defense as well as defense percent to increase your damage overall as well, and then just pretty much any other thing that can help increase your damage, like just regular like damage increases, defense penetration, all that kind of stuff can be really useful. And then things like mana point cost reduction as well as also just additional mana points can be a little bit useful, as he does spam a lot of skills. So as long as you've got a lot of those different kinds of substats, then you'll be fine. And then for all the accessories, it's pretty much the exact same things, but instead of crit rate you'll want crit damage. And then on to his best weapons, and just like his artifact sets, there's not really many weapons you can use with him, but thankfully with him being an SSR hunter he does have his own exclusive weapon currently, and it's called a Gentle Touch, which will increase the user's wind damage by 4%, which can go up all the way to 12%. Then the next part of the passive will increase the user's basic skill damage by 3% when the Impulsive Revenge or Madness effects activate, which stacks up to 4 times, so then you can get a 12% increase. And then when you actually max dupe it, you can increase this stack to be able to stack 15 times, so then you can go to what, a 45% damage increase, so not too bad. And then as for other options, there's really only one option, and that is the Steel Axe, as all it will do will increase your core attack damage by 9%. So, and again, because he's a skill spammer, you're going to be able to get these pretty frequently, so you can at least benefit from this a little bit, and you can increase his core attack damage all the way to 24%. And the Steel Shield I just would never recommend, as he's meant to be a DPS based character, so with this only decreasing the damage that you take from boss monsters by 4.5% just doesn't make it worth it whatsoever, even though it's a defense scaling weapon. So yeah, I'd only ever recommend the Steel Axe, as well as obviously his exclusive weapon being a Gentle Touch. So then moving on, we have all of his skill level priorities and which skills you want to level up first. So obviously, as I've mentioned quite a few times in this video already, DONGSOO is a character that likes to spam a lot of his skills, as things like Urge to Kill can be used up to 3 times, and then he's also got Greed Scavenger, and Greed Scavenger is also going to be the first skill you're going to want to level up the most, as it is what deals the most damage. And then following that, you're going to want to level up Urge to Kill, as Urge to Kill I think is going to potentially maybe be one of the best skills in the game, as not only can you knock down your targets, when this skill actually hits you can also remove a target shield. And as I mentioned in the intro, I do think DONGSOO does have potential to be one of the best DPSs in the game, and that is because of this skill right here. As pretty much when the game is going to start evolving quite a lot with more difficult content, I feel like Netmarble will probably end up releasing some pieces of content that will revolve about the enemies having pretty big shields. So it does mean a character like DONGSOO is going to have some really good amount of longevity when it comes to beating those kinds of content. But that's just me speculating anyways. And then after both of his basic skills, his ultimate Merciless will then be the next thing, as it also has a ton ton of damage on it, with being 3,732% of his defense on level 1, and then goes all the way up to 5,500. And then finally, the last skill I'd recommend leveling up is going to be S rank Influence, his core attack, as because he's spamming a lot of skills, you can get his core attack pretty quickly, so you'll be using it a decent amount. And then the rest of like his basic attacks, his support skill and his QT skill don't really matter too much. Obviously you can level them up if you would like to, but they're the things you'll use the least, so yeah, I wouldn't really recommend leveling them up too much anyways. So overall, Greed Scavenger, Urge to Kill, Merciless, and also S rank Influence are the 4 main skills you're going to want to level up for HWANG Dongsoo. So then when it comes to building teams for Dongsoo, he is slightly limited when it comes to what teams are going to be really good for him, as obviously with him being a DPS, you're going to want to be able to support his damage quite a lot. And the 2 best characters to do this are going to be Eugene Ho as well as also Min Byung-gu. As starting off with Eugene Ho, he's a character you get for free, which is always really nice, and he can also act as the breaker of your team, being able to do break damage through his core attack, and then both of his basic skills as well as also his QT skill. But what's even better is you can actually apply defense increases to your whole team through his ultimate and also his second basic skill, Trust Me. And I'm pretty sure it does actually apply to your whole team, even though it does say just on the user. So just keep in mind, I'm pretty sure it does actually increase for your whole team, which means not only will you be able to increase Jinho's damage, but you'll also be able to increase your Dongsoo's damage. And then because the best build for Dongsoo is going to be with the toughness gear set, it does mean Min Byung-gu is going to be one of the best supports for him, as Min Byung-gu just offers damage increases, crit rate increases, as well as crit damage increases, so he's literally perfect. And then not to mention the punishment debuff is always amazing. And then also, if you don't feel like using a character like Eugene Ho, because his break damage might be just a little bit too little, then you can swap him out for someone like Baekhyun Ho, as Baekhyun Ho also does offer a good amount of damage whilst offering defense decreases to your enemies, so you can increase everyone's damage through that way as well. And that's pretty much it. Your main goal really with Dongsoo is just to support his damage, and you're going to be able to do that best with characters like Min Byung-gu, Baekhyun Ho, Eugene Ho, and just pretty much any other damage support in the game. But obviously that doesn't mean you can't use any other characters with him in the game, as literally any character that deals break damage will work well with him if you need break damage, that is. Juhee in her own scenarios can also be useful just because she supplies you with mana and also ultimate charge. And then there's just also a plethora of other characters that you can use to support him. And then finally, let's talk about all of his dupes and which ones are going to be the best that you're going to want to look into. So starting off with his first dupe, it basically says Greed Scavenger can be charged up to tier 2 and its damage can increase up to 150% depending on the charge time. So this is going to be really good. It's going to be a pretty big damage increase for this skill right here. Second dupe is just a stat buff, being a 5% defense increase. Every character in the game will have something like this, so it's not really anything too crazy. It's nothing too bad, but at least it'll give him a bit more damage. And then his third dupe is actually really cool, as every time Greed Scavenger is used, you'll be able to obtain the Madness effect, which will increase the user's defense and defense penetration by 4%, which will then stack up to 3 times. And then his fourth and fifth dupe are all based around his ultimate, as the fourth dupe is nothing like anything out of the ordinary, as it'll just increase the user's merciless damage by 30%, which again is his ultimate. And then his fifth dupe will also increase his ultimate damage by 70% when Impulse of Revenge is active. So then when it comes to which one of these are the best, I'd probably say, honestly, they're all just really good, to be honest. I wouldn't say there's any that are like completely way better than the others. I do think obviously the fourth and fifth ones are going to give you the most value. And then I definitely think the first and third dupes also have their own positives as well. However, the third dupe does rely on you using Greed Scavenger, which is on a 12-second cooldown, so you're going to have to try and reset that as much as possible with your passive. So hopefully you'll be able to pull that off at least. So there you have it. I genuinely think HWANG Dongsoo has a lot of potential within this game, just due to the fact that he has a ton of damage, but also has the ability to remove enemy shields. But overall, if you did enjoy this video or you found it useful, then don't forget to like and subscribe and click the link down below to support me as a creator, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace!